Back again. Slight malfunction. I'll just give you all a few moments to find me. Sorry about that. I had to do that again. Good morning. At least you're all finding me again, which is great. Please say hi and where you're tuning in from this morning. And welcome to this morning's meditation. This session will be an hour at the very most today. So good morning. Please say hi where you're tuning in from. Good evening, good afternoon for those of you that are not in the UK. And of course I'm coming live from Staffordshire in the UK. It's very sunny, but it's very cold. It's gone a bit like winter. We had a frost, so I don't know. I've got cardigans on and all sorts. No more t-shirts for a few days. Good morning, Michigan. Good morning. Good morning, Israel. Good morning, Washington. Lovely to see you all here. How are you all? Hi, California. It's super cold here. I don't know what happened the last few days. It just got colder and colder. But anyway, blue skies, and it's very sunny again, as you can probably see behind me. So for those of you that are joining, welcome to today's meditation on the Deanne Awakening Love page. This session will be an hour at the very most. Please, when you join, say hi and where you're tuning in from. Good morning, Berlin. Great to see so many of you here. How am I doing? All right, very tired again. I needed more sleep, so I struggled to get out of bed this morning, I have to say. But I'm here, so it's all good. I'll perhaps try and get a bit more sleep later. Yeah, cold where you are too. It's freezing here. Yeah, we had a frost outside when I looked outside this morning before I came down. Bit of a frost, very unusual, but it's going to warm up. But it is what it is, so it's okay. So how are you all? Anyone have any burning questions for me about meditation or anything that's happening with you? Anything to do with spirituality, meditation, or anything to do with what's happening now in your life? Sault Ste. Marie. That sounds nice. I like the name. Lovely name. Where's that? Whereabouts is that? Is that in the US? USA? Oh, Bodhi, how are you watching? Wow. Goodness. Slightly unusual, but a friend of mine that left his body a few years ago is somehow watching this live. So I don't quite understand how that's happening at all, actually. Bit of a surprise. Oh, you're in Canada. Oh gosh, yeah. I've not been to Canada, but I know it's cold there. So what temperature is it now? Is it like super, super cold? In that case, it's probably not that cold in the UK. Right, I can see a question, thank you. Good morning, Lancashire. Oh wow, you're all finding me this morning, amazing. Good morning, Buckinghamshire. Do you have any experience communicating with your subconscious mind for healing purpose, or any experience at all with changing your thoughts through a direct communication with your mind? That's an interesting question. Do you have any direct communication with your subconscious? Well, okay, well, when we look into the mind, the mind is an appearance in consciousness. So we are not our mind, essentially. It appears we have a mind, but if you try and look for it, you won't find it anywhere. And that is the work that I do with people often also helps them to see that, because when you're very caught up in the mind, you believe the mind's stories, and I'm sure I've kind of gone into this before. So your subconscious is a lot of the suppressed experiences, emotions, your wants, desires. A lot of those things that are in your subconscious are the stuff that you haven't dealt with. It's like it's your partly it can be a part of your shadow side, your subconscious. So but also subconscious is cell memories, so past life memories, if you believe in that kind of thing, or parallel timelines is another way to say it. So there's a lot of information stored in the subconscious, dreams, all kinds of things, dark nights of the soul. And often when you have a deep spiritual experience, the lid can be lifted on the subconscious, and it can come up to the surface to be seen. And this can often look like mental illness. More often than not, it is what's happening with somebody when they're experiencing type of mental illness. So your question to me is a bit of an unusual one, in the sense that I recognise the mind for what it is. So for me, I've not been able to go into the subconscious for the purpose of healing, apart from what we could say would be like past life regression type things. Oops, can't see the messages now. So as far as changing thoughts, no, it's more about actually recognizing that the thoughts that you're experiencing are not the be all and end all of what you are. They are just, everyone is experiencing thoughts. There's a collective melting pot of thoughts that everyone kind of dips into. We also have our own thought patterns, so like a record that plays and goes round with various thoughts that we've picked up when we were younger about, ideas that people have given us, or about ourselves, society, all these kind of things. Again, I've spoken about this before on another video. So as far as changing your thoughts, it's more about not taking them on board, really, not listening to them, not being absorbed by them, not being taken over by them, to see them for what they are, which is a thought form, a form of energy moving through the mind, moving through the body. But obviously if you believe all of your thoughts, you can end up in a bit of a pickle, because the mind just throws up all kinds of stuff all the time. Our experience of thoughts is a lot of different things all at the same time. So I wouldn't advise delving into the subconscious particularly. apart from bypassing that by watching the thoughts and being aware that you're not that, and asking yourself the question when you start to believe a story about yourself, is it true actually? More often than not, the story that your mind is creating is not true. And there's an exercise that when you go into silence, you go into meditation and you look for the mind, it's not there. You can't physically find it. It doesn't exist in the sense that it is something. It's part of our ego. It's part of our spirit being in the body. But it's not, it's part of the, trying to think how to say this. It's part of the it's part of the experience of being in a body. The body mind is what creates this identity that we have, But when you really look for the mind, it's not really there. It's an appearance in consciousness. Just as it appears we have a body, we know that, some of us know that we are eternal beings and that the body is just like a suit that we wear, for a limited amount of time. So we have a body, but we're not the body. We have a mind, but we're not the mind. We experience thoughts, but we're not our thoughts. We experience emotions, but we're not our emotions. We are the space that holds all of that experiences all of that. And that's what gives our human experience, to be the space that holds it all and experiences it all. Without our senses, without our bodies, of course, without all of these parts of ourselves, we wouldn't be able to have this human experience, this human being experience. We'd just be floating around as an energy form, unable to participate in the way that we can participate being in a body, experiencing a mind, experiencing thoughts, experiencing sensations, experiencing, touch, smell, taste, all of our hearing, sight, all of our senses, and not only the obvious senses, but the senses of connection that we have, and the extrasensory perceptions that we experience as well, that many of us have. And it's all of these combined that make us into the human being and help us to experience this life, this matrix, for a better word, because it is, it's all made up of energy. Everything is energy. Everything is made out of the same stuff, from the cushions behind me to the sofa to this body. Everything is made of the same stuff, of consciousness. So the subconscious mind, already you can see, if everything's consciousness, the subconscious mind is a collective of subconscious stuff that's stored in the collective. And because we're all connected, and we're all connected to everything, essentially, we experience that connection to everything in varying ways, depending on, the vibration of our bodies, depending on our understanding, our awareness, depending on our life experience, depending on our connections, and all, depending on society, how we've been brought up. That's what allows the experience in all of those things that we've taken on board. So the subconscious mind is more of a collective subconscious mind. And thoughts are kind of a collective as well. We don't have individual thoughts as such. There is just a soup of thoughts that everyone is experiencing. And whether you believe them or not, you'll still experience them to some degree. But if you experience them from the place of awareness, from watching them, and you don't get entangled in the stories, and you recognize that, mind is an appearance, as thoughts are an appearance. I hope that's kind of answered your question. As far as like trying to direct your mind to positive thoughts as well, or changing your thoughts through direct communication with your mind, you know, there are ways to do that, of course. This is all not really my kind of area, and it's all to do with programming the subconscious. But really and truly, even to try to do that, it's all about just recognizing how you believe the thoughts that you experience and how you invest in them. So if you're having negative thoughts about yourself, for example, and you're believing those thoughts, you're experiencing them and you're believing them, you're taking them on board as your thought forms and your system of belief, then that's obviously going to be detrimental to you long term. So it's about, again, recognizing how you're speaking to yourself, and just knowing that what you're experiencing, the thoughts that you're experiencing, are not the truth. And always ask yourself that question: is this the truth? Are these thoughts the truth about me, my experience, who I am? You know, it's all about investigating what's really real, you know. And these experiences can appear to be real, but when you dive a bit deeper, you recognize that it's all just thought forms, it's all just appearances in consciousness, it's all just energy happening. And everything is appearing as energy in form, different forms of energy. The body obviously has its own form that we take on, our form. Thoughts have a form. Everything around us in the world has a form of some description, but it's all made out of the same stuff, consciousness. So you're an individuation of that consciousness. We don't look at a chair and think, oh, the chair's got a mind. You know, the chair's just energy and form, consciousness. I hope I've gone some way to answering that question. It's kind of an unusual question. It's a good one, and it's probably more science-based than really where I'm coming from. Good morning to all of you. Good morning. Good morning, Texas. Good morning. Good morning. Please say hi and where you're tuning in from. And if you've got any more questions about spirituality, meditation, or anything that you're experiencing right now, then please just let me know. Put a comment below this video, and I will do my best to answer it and offer some wisdom. And please stay tuned, because we'll have the meditation in a little while. So does anyone else have any questions? Good morning. Good evening or good afternoon as well, wherever you are. I can see you're all over the world again, which is amazing. Does anyone have any questions about meditation, spirituality, or anything that they are experiencing at the moment? Maybe even some physical, spiritual thing that they don't really understand. And I will do my best to offer some wisdom about that, based on my own experience, of course, my own understanding about these things. Please say hi as well, and where you're tuning in from. If you're from a different place, I'd love to know where you are, if you're in the UK or in the USA, or in another country. I'm just reading your question again, Itai. So, yes, that was good to hear all of this, but I think that human being is different than a chair. You'll be surprised at the very, very base level, we're not. No. And actually, human beings have something like, I think it's over 90% same DNA as a banana. So there you go. Check it out. The human being has an active mind and he can control and change things, don't you think? No, actually, we don't control anything. There's an appearance of control and there's an appearance of change. But if you go into the scientific studies, before you take an action, before even the process of taking an action, your brain has already taken the action before you've actually taken the action. So if you look at the scientific studies about those kind of things, then the question is, who is it that's taking the action? And, where is the control? At the end of the day, there's a life force that runs through all of us, a very, very highly intelligent life force that created us into form and is the reason that chairs and all the rest of it are not living beings. We can't communicate with them. Anyway. So I've sort of lost my train of thought there. So yeah, we're all made out of the same stuff. But as far as control, there is an appearance of control and there's an appearance of changing our mind, but then there's often this question of, what if everything was going to work out that way anyway? What if that's destiny? What if we are in an individual body, having an individual experience, believing that we have some control, when actually everything's going to work out the way it's going to work out, whether we do this or don't do that? And then you see that there's some destiny that runs through life, and actually this is very prevalent when anyone is leaving their body. You will often notice that the circumstances around that are extremely, there's often a lot of perfection in those kind of things, that everything comes to a completion in life. But you'll know if you try to do something and you feel like you're going against the flow of life, then it's like, well, who's controlling the flow? Bearing in mind that we're not actually, we appear to have a personality because we're in a body and we've been given this experience of being a mind and, having a personality. But when we dive deeper again, those things are experiences in consciousness. They're not what we are. Because in awakening, all that can be seen through. Personality can be seen through. We can see that the body is an experience. We can see that the mind is an experience and causes much, much of the suffering in humanity. So when you really dive into these different aspects, it's not what it appears to be. Everyone likes to think they're in control, but what part of the human being is it that likes to be in control? It's the personality and the ego. And this is where many people struggle. Life is a complete mystery. No one has any clue what's going to happen one day to the next, one moment to the next. But many people are under the illusion that they do know, because they have a routine and they see that that's how life is going to be tomorrow, and I'm going to do this, that and the other. But often you'll find that, you might try to do this, that and the other, but this, that and the other won't necessarily happen. There's that saying, that I think it's something along the lines of, God laughs in the face of your plans, because at the end of the day, it's the great intelligence of life that moves through everything, that creates everything, that will allow some things to be created and not others. And what we do when we feel that we have some control is we're just focusing on the thoughts that move in a certain direction. So we're just picking and choosing something from the collective consciousness that makes us then believe that we have control as we move in that direction. So there's definitely an appearance of control, but in these scientific studies, it's known that before you take an action, your body is already taken the action before you even do it. So who's animating that? Who's animating this form? No. When you really, again, look deep into that, it's consciousness, playing with consciousness in a field of consciousness. Energy and form, playing with form. Shakespeare said it brilliantly. All the world is a stage. All the men and women are merely players. We all have our role. We all play a role. We all experience life from the standpoint of an individual aspect that appears to have a life and have some control and to create this, that, and the other. But really, we are all consciousness coming to know itself through the many. Through the many forms that it takes. Be it plants, be it crystals, be it bodies, be it plants, the sky, flowers, animals. All of it is consciousness in many different forms. There's many experiences of consciousness we can have. I hope that helps to answer your question a bit. Just done my morning pages. Oh, hello. And wonder, why does our super evolved soul need these niggling human feelings to grow? The sick, overwhelming feelings that arise in us. Just going to read that again. Just on my morning pages. Super evolved soul need these niggling human feelings to grow. So that we can move past them. So that we can recognize that our feelings are not the totality of our experience. The exercises and meditations that I often share show that when we allow ourselves to go deep dive into the feelings that we experience, that what happens is there's an expansion in consciousness as we recognize ourselves as a space of consciousness that holds the feelings and not the feelings themselves. If we take the judgment away about good and bad feelings, then we notice and recognize that we're just an energy form experiencing more energy forms. So feelings are coming and going through the form. But there's nothing good or bad about them unless we attach to them. Unless we attach meaning to them, good or bad, unless we judge what we're experiencing. When we judge what we're experiencing, that creates the suffering. That creates the idea that there's something good or something bad. But if we recognize that life is just happening, and it's our judgments about life that create our suffering, and to see that it's the appearance of mind that is looking at everything and saying, and has to work that way in order to be a practical asset to us. But when we let it run riot, then this is where it causes problems. But the mind is always trying to create a problem and create a solution and see everything as black or white, as this or that. And this is the duality of life, is the mind. The experience of mind creates the duality of life. When we just look at everything from the standpoint of consciousness and everything is consciousness, then there's no judgment there. There's just happenings, experience, neither good nor bad, neither right nor wrong. Okay, some preferable than others, of course, but it's just experience. Just reading some more questions. Do you feel Earth has shifted into a higher dimension? Yes, because we're evolving. And as we evolve, everything else evolves with us, because it's all consciousness, evolving consciousness. So as consciousness expands, all of consciousness expands. We're individuations of that same consciousness. If there's an expansion anywhere in the universe, then that expansion is us as well. It creates expansion in us, and life is all about expansion, experience, expansion, recognizing the divine consciousness that we are, the individuation of God consciousness, if you like. So we've always been evolving, and evolving means to expand into more of what we are. So the only way we can expand into more of what we are is we recognize more and more of God consciousness, of the highest intelligence that runs through everything. And through evolving and recognizing that, we then tap into, and I think I've mentioned this before in another video, we tap into all of the wisdom, all of the universal wisdom, all of the answers to everything, all of the possibilities for life in human form as a human being. In every moment there are a billion possibilities for our lives. And we can appear to choose a certain thought to guide us in a certain way. But ultimately, it's like, when you make a plan to do something, and then, your car breaks down and you end up going somewhere else because you can't get to, who's in control, and it's not you. It's like, okay, life is in control. The bigger you is all of that, the biggest part of you, the self, the biggest, because it gets a bit tricky, but we're all consciousness. We're all God consciousness, we're all God in form. We appear to be individual aspects of that, which allows us to have this experience, as I mentioned, of life and communicating with each other and community and being able to create beautiful spaces like this, meditation and sharing. But at the highest level, we're all the same thing, and everything else is the same thing. So it very much depends on your perception as to what you experience. What you allow into your experience depends on your perception, your understanding, your experience. And humanity is evolving consciousness. That's what we are. When we meet our shadows and they transform, the energy will shift. Yes, by meeting our shadows, the aspects of ourselves that we've denied or pushed away, and I've spoken about this quite a few times now as well. When we can just accept again, it comes back to the mind and the judgments, that we judge parts of ourselves and each other. as being wrong or, you know, good or bad or not wanted. But to have a whole experience, holy is to be in the wholeness of everything, to recognize everything as a whole, to recognize your being and everything about you as perfection, holiness. I'll read that again. When we meet our shadow and shadows rather, and they transform, the energy will shift and the thoughts, forms we have access to will change. My experience is that when we change, release shadow energy even, it affects how we feel and how we think. Can you not change the physical body with the willpower of thought? It's the other way around. Positive thinking is good in the moment and good for shifting negative patterns, but it's a long road. If you want to affect the subconscious through transgression energy treatment, you can transform the shadows in the subconscious, and it will change how you will feel, think, and respond to life. Does that make sense to any of you? Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think we could get lost in a whole... The thing with all the levels of consciousness and experience is they're very paradoxical. So from one level, everything looks this way. From another level of understanding, everything looks this way. So ultimately, nobody's right and nobody's wrong. You know, if you see it, it's like Henry Ford said, whether you believe you can or can't, you both are right. You know, so if you believe that, then that's going to be what you experience. If you believe something else, that's what you're going to experience. So it'll be right to you in that moment, because that'll be your experience. This is how consciousness draws experience of a similar consciousness to itself all the time. This is where we feel we have control, because as consciousness we're drawing similar experiences to ourselves. But it's so paradoxical, you know, because we look around and it appears that everything is separate. But on the highest level of understanding of consciousness, enlightenment, we know very, very clearly that everything is the same thing. And if we, you know, if you look around the room that you're in, everything around you has come out of the consciousness of another being. So out of this soup of consciousness, everything has been created. You know, for example, this glass, which looks very grubby, I have to say. But this glass, which is very scratched, somebody made it. It came out of the imagination of somebody, somewhere, you know. It's a form of consciousness. This crystal came out of the earth, but it's a form of consciousness. If you take away everything in the space that you're in that has been created by someone, another individuation of consciousness, before you know where you are, you'll begin to see that you're just floating in a space of nothingness, because everything has come out of somebody's ideas. It's a good little game to play with yourself, just to sit and imagine that everything that you see has come from another's mind, consciousness, not an appearance of separate consciousness. And then it's like, okay, so we are in a sea of consciousness. It's very obvious. And if you take everything away, your house, the foundations of your house, you know, everything in your room, and of course the earth is also a ball of consciousness. If you take that away, then you're just a being floating in space and the universe. you know. And then what's left? Nothingness. And this is the nothingness that can be experienced when you drop out of the mind and recognize yourself. When you have an awakening, you drop out of the mind and you recognize yourself as that. That's what you experience. That nothing is real. That everything is consciousness. And there's nothing here apart from awareness. Just reading another question. How do we move through them? They seem so futile and on daily grind level, and they are some bothering and overwhelming at times. You mean thoughts are bothering and overwhelming? Emotions are bothering and overwhelming? Yeah, because we're invested in them, because we take them on board as our identity. We say, I'm sad, therefore, that's my identity. And then we identify with that and we live from that place. Or a great one is, I'm depressed. And, someone else will put that label on you and say, oh, we go to a professional and they will say, oh, you're this. And we go, oh, okay. And we take that on board and then we create another label for ourselves, like we haven't got enough already. And the whole purpose is to get rid of these labels and come back to what we know we are, which is not the labels. But anyway, you're an insomniac, you're depressed, you're this, you're that, whatever the medical terminology might be. And then we take that on board and we go, yeah, that's what I am. And as soon as we say that's what I am and we start believing it and investing in it, we've just given power to that label, which is not what we are at all. We're just having an experience. And a lot of people are really highly invested in these labels. They love them. And it continues the suffering. Well, I must be like this, so, that's my label, and then they tell everyone that they're that thing. And then I take them into an experience of themselves and they're like, oh yeah, I'm not that at all. That's someone else's idea of what I am, not what I actually am. The thing is, when we observe anything in life, when we look at anything and we observe it, we automatically change it because we're consciousness. So if we direct our consciousness to anything, we have an influence on it. This is another paradox, that when somebody is looking at something, it could be a health professional as an example, and this was proven, I think it was Einstein that proved this, the theory of relativity, that when you look at something, you change the outcome of that thing because you're consciousness. And when you direct your energy to that thing, it changes. This is the paradox, you see. There's so many levels to this. Good morning. Good, I'm glad you like that. Thanks. Good morning. Ever hear the term white light? Yes. Enlightenment. Light is intelligence. Light is wisdom. Light is creation. Okay, so I mentioned about getting rid of everything in your space. If you take away the light, not only are you floating in the middle of space, but you're also in darkness and you can't see anything. Nothing has any form without light, does it? Nothing has form without light. If the light was taken away, we wouldn't be able to see the form. So light gives form. Light is intelligence. Wherever we direct light, we experience form. Is there a flip side to acknowledging the label, archetype, trait to move through it to a better self? Yeah, you know, but what that, the labels that we have, the archetype, traits, all of that, we are everything. Every label you could possibly imagine we are, because we're one, we're the same thing. But there gets to a point where every label that we are becomes no label. Because it's an infinite possibility of labels. So the labels point to the fact that that's part of our experience. That we're beyond all of the labels. Hope that makes sense. Sounds like an AA meeting with labels. Yeah, because there's an attachment to what we are. There's an attachment to personality. There's an attachment to how we see ourselves. There's an attachment to form, essentially. That's why, why do you think most people avoid talking about death, leaving the body? Heaven forbid anyone leaves the body. People go through the whole life. The media tries to make us believe that, it's never going to happen. People don't talk about these things. It is part of life, and it's consciousness shifting into another form. Even leaving the body is not the end. The consciousness is a continuous stream of consciousness. The archetypes of what we are just a recognition that we're all of those things. We're not just one thing or the other, we're all of it. And in the same sense, we're none of it. I really do hope this has been making sense, because it gets to a point with all the paradoxes and all the levels of experience, and it can get very mind-bendy and confusing. This is where the mind doesn't serve us, because the truth of what we are is beyond mind, which is why we can only attempt to discuss it and share it. But it's really the experience of it, where the understanding, where the wisdom, where the light comes from, where the intelligence comes from. We try to fit things into a certain box of experience, a box of understanding, but life is so much vaster than that. Hope that's helped to answer some of your questions. It's been very entertaining, I must admit. It's energy, yeah. Everything's energy, manifested into different forms. Gives the appearance of separation. as I mentioned in another video, you know, if we don't have a name, then how can we see ourselves as separate? It's only when we start naming everything, when we're a baby and we receive our name, we get called that name. Before that point of having a name, we're just a being, experience ourselves as everything. But it's in the name, then the individual form appears. And we invest our identity into that then. We're invested in our identity. Ah, they've called us that, so we must be that. So we're not all of this anymore, we are that. And then we build up this idea of what we are. And then we have to spend the rest of our lives undoing those ideas so that we can recognize what we truly are. Yes, I know that is true. It's just that the humanness wins over the infinite at times. Nothing wrong with the human experience at all, and I'm not suggesting that we deny the human experience, not in the slightest, but just to recognize and remember that we are the infinite consciousness, awareness. And you could even say behind the human experience, you know, watching the human experience. Watching the labels, watching the thought forms, watching the appearances, watching the play, and playing a part. I'm happily nothing. Great. But the human experience is so rich, isn't it? It's so rich, but not to get lost in it, not to fully. This is where the whole concept of non-attachment comes from. Experience it. Have the awareness of it. Watch it all play out. But recognize that's not all that you are. You are so much vaster. It's just so very paradoxical, as I'm sure you've gathered from this whole conversation. Any more questions before we move on to the meditation? Or anything that anyone would like to share with me? Thank you for all your hearts and things and lovely comments. And laughing faces, that's a good one this morning. Never seen so many laughing faces. Coming back to the questions about emotions as well, you know, emotions are beautiful. I've been deep diving into some stuff the last few weeks around relationships, as I mentioned on my previous videos, and but just to be in a state of non-judgmentalness with it, to not judge it all, to recognize that the beauty in it, to overcome, to see things for how they are, you know, rather than feeling something or experiencing something and saying, oh, that's bad, or that's good. Just to see it all as the growth and expansion of consciousness in form. Of the human being, the human being. Okay, who's ready to move on to the meditation then? I can't see any more questions yet, so maybe, and I think I've got an idea of what we should share now. So if you all get yourselves comfortable, make sure that you're warm enough. Put your headphones on, go to another room if you need to, bring one of your family members in or share this now, so that you can be in the meditation with whoever you want to be with at this time. If it's really late where you are and you want to lie down, of course you can do that. But ideally, sitting up with your back straight, comfortable, warm enough. Hands on your knees, palms facing up towards the sky. Taking a deep breath in, breathing out. And just feeling the body. Noticing any emotion or any sensations, just noticing. No need to get into a story about any of them, but just to recognize them. And maybe you don't even know what it is that you're feeling. Maybe it's just a feeling, a sensation that doesn't have any kind of story or label attached to it. Maybe you can just let those labels go for this moment. Maybe you can just let go of your judgments about anything for this moment. Your judgments about yourself, about life, about any aspect of your experience. Can you let that go for this moment? I want you to drop into your heart. So focus on your heart center in the middle of your chest. Take all your attention to your heart. All of your consciousness to your heart. Breathe into your heart, and with each breath, allow your heart to expand. In the middle of your chest, just let your heart expand. Notice what happens with your energy as it moves down from the head into the heart. Just continue to breathe into the heart area in the middle of your chest. Just notice how the whole body is feeling in this moment. Is there any tension anywhere? Any contraction? Any expansion happening? Breathing easily and gently. If there are thoughts happening, thoughts being experienced, I just watch them. Don't get involved with them. Just see them as clouds passing in the sky. or guests coming into a room, but you're opening the front door and the back door so they just leave the room. You don't engage with them. And the thoughts are just moving through the front door, through the space and out through the back door. And closing your eyes now. Just let the breathing soften, the whole body soften. Continuing to notice the heart chakra, the heart center, and to take your attention there. Continuing to allow the breathing to be gentle, to find its own rhythm, to soften the body. With each breath, let the body soften. You might need to breathe a little deeper. As you come into this space of deep relaxation and deep listening, I'd like you to look for the mind. With your consciousness, just look for the mind. Where is this mind that brings so much suffering and so much trouble, so much judgment? Where is this mind that contains all the thoughts? Where is this mind that wants to control the outcome of experience? Where is this mind that separates everything, that makes somebody wrong and you right, or that makes you right and them wrong? Can you allow others to have their experience and not judge it? Can you allow others to be right? Does it really matter? Where is your mind in this moment? Where is your suffering in this moment? Where are your problems in this moment? Where are you in this moment? Continuing to breathe easily and gently, allowing the whole body to soften. Just look for the mind, all the problems that it causes, all the suffering that it causes, all the trouble and judgment. In this moment, where is it now? Are you not already free? Are you not already whole? See, your freedom is available right now, right here in this moment, not in some future moment or some past idea. There you will find suffering, here you will find freedom. And you are always here. Where else can you be? Wherever you are is here. And it's always now. So now, here, you are free. It's an identity. Without freedom. But in this moment, where is the personality? Where is the judgments? Where are the labels in this moment? Where are the labels in this moment? You are simply being meditation. Your natural state of being. Can you find mind? Can you find the source of all your suffering in this moment? Can you find a past in this moment and a future in this moment? Breathe. Recognize what you are. You can experience life from this moment, from this place, from here now. Or you can go on imagining all the things you've been imagining. Just be here now. Why would you want to be anywhere else? Breathe. Recognize the freedom in this moment. Remember who you are. And slowly, gently, when you feel ready, you can begin to open your eyes and just continue to remember who you are in this moment and this moment and this moment. Take a breath in. Feel that yumminess of expansion. Say yes to yourself, yes to this moment, yes to life. Thank you for being here, present, with all your presence, with all your gift of beingness. If you'd like to connect with me, you can connect with me on my Deanne Awakening Love page or my Deanne G page. Please check out my website, www.awakeninglove.co.uk. If you like my YouTube channel, please put YouTube in the comments. I'm going to be uploading lots more videos onto there. Lots of things that can help in your experience, your awakening. If you'd like to make a donation, please put PayPal in the comments below this video and I will be able to send you my PayPal details. Much love to you all, many blessings. Have a blessed day, blessed evening, blessed afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And I'll see you all again tomorrow at 8 AM British Summer Time, London time, for another session. Much love. Bye.